hello to you. My name is Maria Kondzielska and you are watching Poland Daily Culture. We continue with the series about Royal Castle in Warsaw. With me here is Professor Wojciech Fałkowski, who is the director of the place. Thank you very much for hosting us here. And it's absolutely amazing and breathtaking. I cannot imagine to work here every day. You kind of need to feel a little bit like a king.
No, not at all. I'm a director and professor of Warsaw University, historian. I am an observer. I am a historian who is analyzing the history and facts which happened here. But not a king, yeah.
But still, it's a nice place to come every day to work. Definitely an encouragement. But since we're talking about the Royal Castle, what notable events this castle witnessed?
Most famous was Constitution of Poland, which was done in this castle at the end of 18th century. This is so-called 3rd May Constitution, since this was the day of decision. This was a program of reform of the state in order to adapt Poland and the state to our neighbors. With very much centralized power, well-organized army, even a huge army. Russia and Austria wanted to get some parts of Poland. So this is so-called partition of Poland, and for 120 years Poland disappeared from political map of Europe. This constitution was the final step of Polish big reform to adapt state and administration to this challenge. Enlightenment, 18th century, it is a century of brilliant brains, excellent philosophers, very nice, beautiful art, but also at the same time, we meet very brutal politics, completely brutal situations against Poland. Some steps, decisions were taken in order to completely dominate at first step, and after that to eliminate Poland from politics in Europe, from the political map. But there is also a second event we can mention now. After first Polish insurrection in 19th century against Russia, in this house, Polish members of parliament, Polish Sejm, decided to depose Polish king. This time was Russian Tsar Nicholas I, and they decided to get back Polish crown from his head. He became furious.
And he was personally here, yes?
No, he was in Russia, in Petersburg, but when he learned the news, he became furious. Since this was something completely incomprehensible for him. He was a big ruler, Tsar of Imperial Russia, and ordinary people looking from his position, people from Poland decided to depose him as a Polish king. But this was a voice of freedom against partition of Poland during insurrection in 1830.
Because, as we have to say, that unfortunately, even though the Constitution of the 3rd May was a very noble event, it was the first European constitution, and actually very well prepared, very well drafted and written for those times. But it didn't last for a long time. Eventually the partition came and the country was divided between those three powers of Russia, Prussia and Austria. It didn't last for long. But it became also the sign of that Poland needed to be governed by the people and its people. And later on, there were many ways and revolutions trying to get the crown back and to unite Poland again. And this part, Warsaw, was in the Russian partition.
At the very beginning, it was in the hands of a Russian king, but for whole 19th century, it was a small city at the border with Prussia in western part of Russia, in the hands of Russian Tsars. But really, Constitution of 3rd May became also very mythical, legendary fact, and it helped to Polish people to survive without a country, without our state, and this was and still is the fact we remember it as a sign of Polish independence. We call this constitution our. This means from the castle.
Oh,
since it was voted here in a room which is just behind me, and we think of this constitution as the castle constitution.
It's the Royal Warsaw Castle Constitution. Well, definitely something very modern for those times to create a constitution.
It was really so-called revolutionary step, but during French Revolution we can't say this, since this was very decisive, very important decision, a very important change, constitutional situation of Poland. We think it was really decisive for next 100 years when Poland disappeared.
And just to say, because this is a royal place, especially after the time of Stanisław August Poniatowski, who loved art and who liked also to spend money on art, it needed to be a wonderful museum full of great pieces of art and architecture. Later, the Russian Tsars steal anything from this place?
Many things. They moved from here to Petersburg, but we negotiated with them after the war of 1920, after the Battle of Warsaw, when Poland became an independent country. And part of these objects, masterpieces from here, came back to Warsaw, to National Museum and to the castle. The castle is a symbolic place for all Poles all over the world. We think of the castle at first as a museum, as a place with beautiful objects of art, but also, perhaps even this is more important, as a symbol of Polish independence, of Polish freedom, and space where freedom is visible. We think that the freedom in this place, in the castle, is very visible. We can touch it.
So everyone who would like to touch a little bit of history and this also independence of Poland, and you have to come here and visit this symbol of our history and also of great time and the greatness that the Polish history is not only World War II, but it's much, much richer. Thank you very much for watching Poland Daily Culture.